Hi guys, I'm Shmee and today I'm back at Classic Stud in Frankfurt, the place I showed you quite recently. I've driven over today in the Focus RS, leaving the McLaren at home, but I have come to visit Lamborghini Frankfurt, who have their showroom inside here, and in particular to take a look today again at the Lamborghini Aventador S and their particularly nice car that they've got here. But while we're parked up just outside here, firstly, this colour is very similar to the Aventador colour that we're coming to see, but over this way, from Mclaren Frankfurt, there are a couple of cars lined up. Mclaren Frankfurt and Lamborghini, that's just behind the glass, are actually both part of the door group here in Frankfurt, so they're together. But we have the 570 GT, the 570 S, and a 720S in Azores, and that colour looks great today. It stands out really nicely, and I like the colour choice for the wheels as well. Now though, we did not come today to look at a 720S. I drove one of those the other day and you can see that video on the channel as well. We came to head inside where you can see there's a Huracan Performante at the moment, so I will run inside and go and say hello. Just a quick peek while wandering by, a normal Huracan on that side. If I swing around here, we have the Performante that I also drove quite recently as well, but this car in green with the green calipers is looking very, very cool. Now, that's probably the more usable car versus the Aventador. We're going to go have a look at the big one. Here we go then. Now that's what I am talking about. This car, the Aventador S, is finished in blue Nila. It is a striking colour, special order. From Lamborghini's Ad Personam, you can have all sorts of different things, custom colours and effects and finishes, but the Aventador S has so much presence. I don't think any other car in the world can be as dramatic as a Lamborghini V12, and in particular one of these. Just look at this thing. And in fact, when I drove an Aventador S before and did a full review style video piece with it, the thing I couldn't get my head around was quite how much attention it gets as a car. Everybody spots it, and if you think about the shape of the car, literally if you asked a child to draw a supercar, this is what they draw, this exact car, the Lamborghini Aventador. Anyway, I have the key right here, so let's unlock it, pop open the doors, which obviously Lambo style, open upwards, have a quick glimpse at the interior, and this car's spec is awesome, with the blue touches carried through the interior, the blue stitching for the diamond quilting there. It just looks insane. The blue stripe across the dash as well. And obviously, for a quick rundown of some details, underneath the carbon fibre here, because this car is spec'd incredibly highly, you have a 6.5 litre V12. In fact, let's come round quickly and fold the seat forward, pop that open, come and show you the engine back here, because it's just cool. 6.5 litre V12, 740 horsepower, which is nuts. Something quite cool about them is you see this plaque here, that is the firing order of the different cylinders. It's written out on the bottom. Then there's the carbon strut over the top of it, so that's a bit of a monster right in there. Slam that down, that closes properly. Then down here, carbon diffuser, new look exhaust system for the Aventador S. This one has the race exhaust, and believe me when I tell you it's going to sound insane and very, very loud. I am loving the silver wheels against the blue paintwork. I think that's a really, really nice touch. The Aventador S has four-wheel steering, so the rear wheels will steer by a very small amount as well to give you more stability at speed, more turning ability while going slowly, but it still has the original sequential manual automated gearbox that's not the greatest in the world. Anyway, we'll experience that shortly. But today is basically about just taking out the Aventador S, seeing what it's like, and it's a big thanks to Lamborghini Frankfurt here. Ooh, nice carbon back seats. I was going to say it's a big thanks to Lamborghini Frankfurt for allowing me the opportunity to take this for a drive. So let us step into the car here. Fighter jet style, you turn it on by lifting up the flap. You've also got Ego mode for driving, but let's start this up. It's a good sound. And then we've got the control for the exhaust system as well. It gets even louder. Everybody likes that. Just a little feathering. Wow. Barely anything. So, let's go head out on the roads and see what this thing is like. So welcome to the madhouse. Now, I've got to remind myself of the car. You've got the central control for choosing your driving modes. We'll start in Strada. Lift system up is that. Into gear with the paddle shifters, and the paddle shifters in this thing just feels super cool. Drives away more smoothly than it did in the previous car, and the turning circle is so much more improved now in the Aventador S than it was in the standard Aventador. But it just feels like a monster already. Automatically shifted there from first into second, which is not exactly the smoothest thing in the world, but rolling out past the front of Classic Start, this is just, it just feels crazy. It just feels like something mental, and even in the softer suspension mode, it's actually pretty bumpy. Not gonna lie, going over these bumps. Now the gearbox in here is complete and total rubbish. I'm sorry Lamborghini, but it needs to move on a generation. It needs a newer gearbox system. It has funny things like stop-start, so when you actually come to a stop in here, which with nobody behind me quickly I can just do for a moment, you'll hear the engine stops, which is odd, and then it fires back up again. But it's desperately impractical from the point of view of the fact that it's hugely wide. It's very awkward to see out of. You've got a super low front windscreen, so what you can actually see forwards means if there's a traffic light anywhere near you, good luck. Out the back you're looking through the slats of the rear window, which take up a little bit of the visibility, obviously over the back of the engine bay, how that works. But it just feels like the most monumental sense of occasion. Now I'm going to drive it in manual just to use the paddles myself, 7-speed box. Because I think it works better. I'm going to pop it up at the moment into sport. I've got the exhaust valves closed again, but we'll open them in a moment when we're out onto the open road. But you just feel, even pootling along at under 20 kilometers an hour right now, every head turns to look at this car. That's quite funny actually, how many people over there were looking. And obviously, like I said, the exhaust valve is closed, it's in quiet mode. If I get the key out of my pocket quickly, I can open it up. Press the number 2 button. The noise, how much louder it gets. Stick that back in my pocket if I can. It's awkward, there's nowhere to put stuff. You know, normally you'd have a cup holder where you can put the car key, but you can't in here. Entry road to an Autobahn then. You have to fluctuate the throttle as you shift gear to get the smoothest shift. But let's see if we can find a little de-restricted section and accelerate a little bit and experience a touch of this car. I think it's pretty much opening up right here, up towards 8 and a bit thousand RPM. The wing's gone up. Okay then, up to 200 kilometers an hour on, pretty effortlessly. It sounds so insane. Oh, there we go, it's completely empty. Wow. Speechless, but we're touching on 300-ish, 290 kilometers an hour on the Autobahn, and it feels exceptionally stable. The sort of width of the car, the track of it, and the feel of the four-wheel steering for stability is very reassuring. As it opens up in front of me then, away we go to the red line. This is crazy quick. Sport mode. We can also put it one more into Corsa mode, which is of course the fastest setting to drive it in. Slightly more aggressive shifts and a slight change in the distribution of power. So in sport you have a little bit more, or sorry, less going to the front. This has 20% to the front in Corsa, 10% to the front in sport. Sport is mostly set up for fun rather than outright performance. So in this mode you would get full go everything, and then ego you can customize it. You have to love the Autobahns. The fact that you can come straight out onto a road and just experience a car like this, doing this. Whoa, that shift! That is a violent kick. It feels strange to just be cruising along, you know, at 150 miles an hour or whatever, a little bit slower right this second. but it's so stable for the speed that you really don't take in properly that it's going that quick. I mean, the engine is barely having to work to achieve that because it's so big and so capable. 740 horsepower. But I think I'm just beaming and almost my cheek muscles starting to get a little bit sore from the smile. The shifts are huge. Good 310-ish, but let's slow down a lot. Barely having to use any of the braking capability. So then, we know that it's amazingly fast. The 300 km/h run is not an issue for this car. It's about 190 miles per hour we've just done. The top, I think, is more like 220 in total when you're actually up there. Let's go experience it on some different types of roads. One of the most bizarre things in here is just to give it a little dab, and then when you lift off and you just get those cracks going off behind you. It's sheer drama, honestly. Could a car have more of that sense of occasion? Literally cliche phrase to use it over and over again like this, but I don't honestly think, however much money you spend, an Aventador, or now an Aventador S, is the height of that game. There's no being discreet, especially if you have the exhaust. Every shift does those cracks, those really loud, crumbly noises. It's hard to describe, but the sound from that just carries away. It just feels really cool, and that's why people buy these cars, isn't it? I think dynamically to drive, the steering is strange, it's heavy and a little bit unusual feeling. The way the power comes through is very linked to the throttle pedal, so you actually have to be pressing all the way down, literally all the way down to get full acceleration. And obviously it's a big heavy car. It's not winning any lightweight awards, but it's just hilarious to drive. And the power may not be usable, but it's done in a way that you can enjoy it an awful lot. Then crack, what happens if we drop the window slightly? And the Aventador S Roadster just came out as well at the IAA last week or so. It's just honestly so silly. I've pulled into a lay-by for a moment, and in typical Aventador fashion, whenever I film one, I have to let you listen to how it sounds. So let's open the window, which you do by the buttons in the centre, which are backwards. So you'd think you press it down to open the window, but no, you press it up, and then the window is open. But just have a little listen to the noise that this makes. It's just silly. I think to continue this, we will close the exhaust valve. There we go, and make it a little bit quieter. So I'm not going to disturb too many people, just see what it's like with the exhaust closed for the moment. So back in my pocket, back into gear, and let's get rolling. It does pull away so much better than the previous gen of the car. We're still in manual, still in Corsa, so the ride is unsurprisingly rather firm over this kind of ground that I'm on at the moment. But let's pull out onto the road. Even in quieter mode, it's still more than loud enough. So you can actually drive it fairly gently, as just demonstrated. I guess if we put it back into Strada and soften it all down, if you want to, and you can get over how big it is, you can, but you're not going to, because the car feels so much like it wants to be the angry brute that it looks like it is. So it's screaming at you to drive it, to actually push your foot down all the way to the floor and go a little bit crazy. It feels genuinely odd, driving it slowly. And I'm not in a city centre, that would just be too much stop-start and totally not what it's made for at all. Those downshift overrun crackles, I don't know how to describe that noise that you get when you lift off. It's just mental. Well, I seem to find myself turning back onto the Autobahn again. So we're in sport mode. Let's go back to Corsa and see what the Autobahn has in store. It does feel like a big heavy car going around a corner like this, even though it is a fair chunk lighter than the previous model, or the standard Aventador. But these roads are made for driving, and that's just what this car will do. I just went through a tunnel and I totally didn't rev it, which is very unlike me. Oh dear, sorry guys. Let's pull out and have some fun. It's ferocious! It's a vicious, well, it's a bull that needs taming. Which it shifts. It's so aggressive. It's so fast. This thing is truly bonkers. The Lamborghini Aventador S. If they wanted to make a more crazy machine, well, they kind of have, I guess, with the Centenario and with the Veneno, but I was going to say it would be quite an achievement because this thing is utterly absurd. Anyway, let's pull back into Lamborghini Frankfurt and have a last little look around. But what a drive. Well, I'm back at base, which will mean it's time in a moment to turn it off, but you've got a pretty good reversing camera there on the central display as well. So into first gear, flip up that, and off, and quietness, which is something not very familiar to a car like this. So inside, there is next to nowhere to actually store anything. You don't have any storage pouches. Some people attach self-made things here, but apart from this tiny little storage thing here for a document, there's nowhere to put stuff. You can fit maybe a laptop bag behind the seats, and there's a tiny bit of bonnet space as well. But for the little things, there's next to nothing. Then, if you're not familiar with an Aventador, the way you open the door is you put your finger through that little gap and pull the lever up, and the door does its party trick, and up it goes. And it's got the Sensonum sound system as well, which is very nice. So, there we go. The Lamborghini Aventador S for the second outing, and it's just as crazy as the first, and it felt like it got just as much attention. In fact, on that last little stretch, when unfortunately my cameras weren't actually rolling, even then I had somebody stand in the road, like in front of the car, to stop it. You can hear the noise of a Mclaren moving around. But this thing is a small slice of craziness. Oh look, 675 LT. Two very different colours, but yeah, don't forget the 570 GTs right there. The only thing I don't like is the way Germany requires this number plate, plinth, which looks horrendous. I'm not gonna lie. I mean, it must be legislation to do with how it has to hold the number plate, but it looks cheap, tacky and ridiculous on a car that's otherwise really, 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 really cool in terms of how it looks. Anyway, with that, moving around there, it's kind of a shame I didn't bring mine, but I will bring today's video to an end. Big thanks, of course, to Lamborghini Frankfurt for lending me the keys to take out their Aventador S for a little test drive today. today. So go follow their social media pages. I'll pop the links down below, but I'll wrap this one up for this time. So thanks as always for watching, guys. Make sure you're subscribed for plenty more supercar content in the future, and I'll catch up with you again very soon. Cheers.